I am using cadmium yellow medium. This is a very expensive paint, but I love the color. It's a beautiful yellow orange, and it's so rich, and I just love it, love it, love it. I'm going to use it straight out of the tube. I'm going to probably put a lot here because, well, not a lot, but more than a little bit. I'm going to mix with some solvent. And oil paints have a smell also because you're smelling that oil. So I'm going to mix with some solvent, and I'm going to apply my lean layer first. And I'm going to figure out what brush I want. I want a big, maybe 2-inch or 1.5-inch brush. This is a 2-inch, this is a 1.5-inch. I kind of go by feel. This one is softer and it's going to spread more, so I'm going to use this one. I like this brush though. I really like this brush. And you'll find the brushes that you like. So if you're using a solvent that you don't like the smell, just get it as much as you need and then put the top back on it. So I am taking my brush, I'm dipping it in the solvent, I'm getting all the extra out. Solvent goes a long way with oil. So get just as much as you need. This is dripping a little bit, so I'm going to take some more out. I'm just kind of putting it back in the jar. And yes, you can use paper towels. You can use a cloth as well. The cloth that you use for acrylic stays with acrylic. You need a different cloth for oil. So my brush is wet, not with water, but with odorless mineral spirits. You can have a non-toxic version of that. So I am taking my palette so as to not drip. And I put some of that beautiful cad yellow, it's cadmium yellow medium, but they call it cad yellow for short. And I'm loading up my brush. I think I got too much on there, but it's going to spread. You can also, just remember how we talked about wetting your canvas first to get that blend? You can wet your canvas not with water, but with the solvent. So if this doesn't work the way I want it to, I might do that. So I've loaded this up on my brush. You can see that. And let's see. I don't know. I'm just going to try. All right. This is thick with paint. Now, I'm going to put this out of the way and get it out of my lap so I can move a little bit more. I want to be careful with my strokes because I got a lot of paint and a lot of solvent on this brush. So this is my background. What am I going to do here? It could be a tree. It could be a car. It could be a cat. I mean, just whatever. This is my background. You always want to paint your background first. You don't paint the thing and then paint the background around it. You paint the background first. Now, what happens here is if you got a lot of solvent, you're going to see streaks. And I'm seeing that right now because my brush is very wet with solvent. I'm painting my edges like I've taught you. Okay, I'm going to get rid of these streaks. I don't like these streaks, and I'll show you how to do that. Right now, I'm just focusing on covering that canvas. I only dip my brush once, but I can do these little long crisscrossy motions and get more of that solvent going and bring it on down here. We did the same thing with the watercolor. It was just a different brush, a different medium. Even if I get those longer strokes, I still see my streaks. Why? Because I got a lot of solvent in this brush. So this is dry down here. So I'm just scrubbing it in. And I'm getting all that extra. See how I got lighter as I came down? I don't know if you can see that. But I'm getting all that extra pigment off of my brush and onto the canvas. I'm painting my edges because if I don't frame it, I can use it for later. I mean, I can hang it up without framing. I painted this whole canvas with one dip. Now, I didn't get the bottom because it's sitting up under there. I guess I could do it if your easel is dirty. And what can I do? I can pick some of this up because there's a whole bunch up there and get some of that on the bottom. I'm trying not to flick it everywhere, but and just scrub it on in there. All right, so I covered that whole canvas in I don't even know how many minutes. Okay, so I don't like the streaks. Well, how do I get rid of the streaks? I can take that brush, go over it again. Long strokes, still got streaks because it's really wet with solvent. So now what I need to do is get my oil cloth which I don't see right now, so I'm going to use another one. I'm going to take half of my acrylic one that I didn't use, and now it's going to turn into an oil one. So I've got an old towel, just rip it up. And I'm going to use half of it for oil and half of it for water. All right, so I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to get all that extra out of my brush. Yes, it's going to get dirty, but you're going to use this cloth for oil for the rest of your life, because even if it gets paint on there, because that's what it's used for. All right, so it's still streaking. I can keep doing this. I can use little soft crisscross. Don't put as much pressure on my brush. Do little soft crisscrosses and bring it on down. 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 I'm doing little crisscrossies, and I'm lightening up my pressure so that I'm just not mashing it on there and you can see my strokes. I'm blending now. So this is my lean layer. It's very thin, and it's going to dry faster than thickening up the surface. So now when I get ready to paint on top of this, I can put, you know, thick pieces or thick places or not. All right, so I can keep doing this till I don't see any more streaks. Or technically I could add a little bit more paint, but I don't want any more color here. Or I could get a paper towel and take some of it off and start over. Same thing you do with the watercolor. Now I'm just really easing up on the pressure of my hand, and I'm just doing little crisscrosses. Little teeny little X's. All right, I'm happy with this. I don't see my streaks anymore. Now, I started out dark and I got lighter because I wanted it like that. Maybe it's a sunset. All right. Technically what I would really do if I were not, even if I were not doing this demo, I would probably just take my palette knife and go to town. So I'm going to get my palette here. And then you decide what your picture is going to be. Are you just going to play with techniques right now? Or are you going to actually try to start a painting? What I try to do is show you techniques and paint something at the same time. But I'm feeling a palette knife. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to take my palette knife. There's different shapes. For example, I have a diamond shape one. I love this one. You can do a lot with this one in that tip. This is more of a slant. If you need hard edges, you can paint with a knife and not with a brush. So I'm going to show you a quick fat over lean. What am I feeling? I don't know. Tree, maybe. Why have I been doing trees all year? I have no idea. One thing I learned is to mix your browns. You can buy browns straight out of the tube, or you can mix your browns. If you want to mix your browns, you take red, yellow, and blue, or red and green, and that will give you brown. I'm going to take permanent alizarin crimson and sap green, and I'm going to make a brown. You don't believe me? Let's watch. Yes, you can blend the oil paints, or you can not blend them. That's up to you. Once you get used to the technique, you'll learn that. Let's use, let's just say I'm going to put some alizarin crimson is like a dark cherry red. It's like a beet red. It looks like the color of beets. Sap green is like a army green, sort of, maybe, kind of. Yeah, sort of, kind of. And I'm just gonna, it squeezes out just like toothpaste. And I'm gonna do this with no solvent at all because it's already oily when it comes out. So it's like oily toothpaste. So I put that right there. I'm gonna just take my palette knife. I'm gonna start it and then I'll have to put it back in my lap because I don't want it to fall. But I'm mixing with my palette knife. And you just kind of scoop and smash. Scoop and smash. You just kind of There's no method to this. You just kind of scoop and smash, rub and smash, rub and smash. And then you have to get the extra. It's like peanut butter. Like you have to get the extra off and scoop it up, turn it around. Make sure it mixes. You have to mix it with the knife. Okay? And if it's still kind of red, add more green. If it's too green, add more red. But this is supposed to be brown. It's going to be brown. I see right now that I need more green. And I'm going to do this really fast because I think I just have a few more minutes. A little bit more green if it's too red. So you just smash and scoop, scoop and smash. Stir, stir, stir. It's like you're mixing peanut butter. All right, so I'm going to take my palette knife that I just used, and I'm going to use the back of it. If you're painting, you can put whatever color you want in the background. I just like that color. You can do blue. I mean, it just depends on what you're painting. So let's just say I'm painting a tree. I don't know. I'm just using my palette. See how that's brown? That was red and green, and it turned out to be a dark brown. If you want a lighter brown, you would use, let's get my colors here. You probably use a cad red medium, a cad yellow, and like a cerulean blue, maybe a lighter blue, and that'll give you a lighter brown. It'll give you like a caramel color brown. All right, so I'm taking my palette knife and I'm making a tree. I'm not using a brush at all. This is fat over lean. I'm doing very thick paint on top of very thin paint, and I don't have time for it to dry, so I'm just going ahead and doing that. Technique. You can spread like peanut butter, or I can come back in. I'm holding this so I don't get it on the edge. I can come back in with my brush. When you're painting with a palette knife, you don't worry about detail, you worry more about shape. I might finish this next week. All right, so what can I do now? I'm going to take my brush that I use for the background. Since I am not going to clean it and I'm running out of time, I can take that brush and let's start on some foliage for this tree. Or I could also blend some of that out. And yes, I can do that now because that's bothering me. Okay, so I'm just going to take a dry brush. So I've got a little bit of solvent left on my canvas here. I'm just going to blend that out real quick. It's not going to be perfect because this is just a demo. And I'm just kind of showing you some techniques so you can use your brush for blending. So you get a totally softer feel with that brush than you do with the palette knife. Okay, so let's do, I don't know. I want some green and I want to mix it with this yellow that's left. So you can, use kind of tricks to use the colors that are on your palette. Like you don't want to have any extra leftover paint. So use what's left. All right, I'm going to get some green, but I want another, I think that's the only green no, I have a phthalo green. And then that's going to mix with that cad yellow. Okay. All right, I need to get some pliers here because this is not working. Or use my teeth. I think I'm gonna have to use my teeth. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little bit of this green. I need a little bit of solvent in my brush, like just a little bit. Like not a lot, like just a little bit, like just a dab. And I'm gonna, because if it's too wet, it's not gonna give me what I want. So I've got a big glob of green here, and I'm just gonna take this I'm gonna start my, it's blending here. I'm gonna start my greens and then come back in with some other colors. I need some more green now. I didn't put enough green on there. So that can be my base. And just come back. It's okay that it's blending with that brown because I'm going to put some more green in there. But this is fat over lean. And for the sake of time, I'm going to I need a little bit more green. So I would come in with maybe some white, not a lot of white, but just to lighten it up just a little bit. But you can apply it, once you put that background in there, you can apply it as thinly or as thickly as you want, but you need to cover up that background. So I just got a little bit more green here. And it's going to mix in there. So you get where I'm going with this. And I could just play around with it some more. But for the sake of time, I'm just showing you a few blending techniques. I didn't draw anything out first. I just started painting straight on the canvas.